A black woman in simple clothing steps into a luxury car dealership and is humiliated by the staff. They mock her appearance, doubt her finances, and even suggest she look for something more her level. What they don't know is that this woman is the owner of everything in that room, and when the truth comes to light, it changes the fate of everyone present. It was a warm morning, and business at the upscale dealership of imported cars hummed along as usual. Salespeople in pristine suits flashed rehearsed smiles, while well-dressed clients came and went, eyeing machines that cost as much as a house. Then the glass door slid open slowly, and a black woman with a neatly styled braid, but plain attire, worn button-up shirt, faded jeans, and scuffed sneakers, walked in with steady steps. She moved calmly, taking in every detail around her. Her name was Taylor Swifts. As soon as she stepped into the showroom, the glances began. One salesman, leaning by the coffee machine, nudged his colleague with a smirk and whispered something. The other stifled a laugh, raising his eyebrows as if to say, "Did she take a wrong turn?" Taylor ignored them, walking up to one of the indoor displays and stopping in front of the priciest model in the store, a sleek imported supercar, valued at nearly $1 million. Across the room, a senior salesman named Edward watched her with a sneer. Known for his arrogance, he always had an eye for those who looked wealthy, and in his mind, this woman clearly didn't belong. Edward sauntered over, feigning a professional smile, but his tone betrayed him. "Hey there, everything okay? Can I help you? Look, these cars are special models, you know. We've got other options, maybe something more affordable for your profile." Taylor met his gaze with calm composure, unruffled. "Thanks," she said. "I'm actually interested in this one." Edward frowned and let out a restrained chuckle. This is top of the line. It's for folks ready to spend big. But if you're looking for something in your budget, I can point you to a little lot down the road, some decent used cars that might suit you better." Taylor held his stare, her chest tightening slightly. Before she could reply, another salesman approached. "Everything good here, Edward?" he asked with a taunting edge. "I thought she was just asking for the restroom." "Nope," Edward said mockingly. "Our friend here wants to take home the most expensive model in the shop." "Cash or promises?" the second salesman quipped. They both laughed. Taylor lowered her eyes for a moment, not out of shame, but memory. This scene, this treatment, reminded her of countless times she'd been dismissed, judged, diminished for being poor, for being black, for not fitting the right mold. But now things were different. She stepped closer to the car, running her hand gently over its glossy finish, and said firmly, "I'd like to see the interior. Is that possible?" The two exchanged looks, still clueless. The game was just beginning. Taylor was born and raised in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of Detroit. The eldest of 3 siblings, she was brought up by her mother, Mama Joyce, a fierce and hardworking woman who cleaned houses to make ends meet. Taylor's father had passed away in a factory accident when she was young, and his absence forced her to grow up fast. While other kids played in the streets, she washed cars, carried groceries at the corner store, and later worked as a parking lot attendant near an auto shop. She wasn't spared the jeers, the rejections, or the sight of people crossing the street when they saw her coming, but she refused to let it break her. Every night, Mama Joyce would say, "Baby, the world might try to shrink you, but don't you ever forget who you are." Taylor carried those words like armor. She studied at night in public school, reading borrowed library books or donated paperbacks by flashlight. Her dream was clear. She wanted to rise not just for herself, but for her mom, her siblings, and every time she'd been treated as invisible. At 17, she landed a steady job at an auto repair shop, where she learned the ins and outs of luxury cars. She watched every detail, the engines, the conversations, the way treatment shifted based on a customer's appearance. That's when she vowed she'd one day own her own company, and it would be different. She earned a scholarship to study business at a private college, excelling as a student. Days were spent working, nights studying. She slept little but dreamed big. Years later, with a small savings and a friend who believed in her, she opened a humble, used car lot. With honesty and respect, she won over customers, growing her business bit by bit. Today, Taylor Swifts is the CEO of a renowned chain of luxury car dealerships across the U.S., overseeing hundreds of employees, yet she never lost touch with her roots or the hard road she'd traveled. It was precisely because she remembered where she came from that she did what few would, visiting her own stores in disguise. Not for show, but to see if, even out of the boss's sight, her staff treated people with dignity. Little did she know that on this muggy morning, she'd walk into one of her dealerships and face one of the most shameful scenes of her journey. Despite her success, Taylor never let herself drift from reality. While many in her position hid in air-conditioned offices far from the showroom floor, she knew a company's heart lay in how it treated its customers, especially those who didn't look rich. That's why she started doing something unusual, visiting her own dealerships undercover as an ordinary customer. She wore plain clothes, avoided using her phone during visits, and arrived by bus or on foot. Her goal was simple: to see firsthand if her employees lived the values she preached. For Taylor, a team's true character wasn't in sales reports, but in the looks, the words, the treatment given to those with nothing to flaunt. This particular store was in one of the city's ritziest districts, known for high profits and a demanding clientele. On paper, it was a top performer, but Taylor knew numbers didn't tell the whole story. Before leaving home, she slipped on the same faded shirt she'd worn as a mechanic, a symbol, a reminder, a shield. Looking in the mirror, she took a deep breath. This wasn't just another test, it was about respect. Crossing the dealership's threshold, she knew she wouldn't be recognized. She kept a low profile, letting her results speak for her. But that day, what she encountered crossed every line. She wasn't just disrespected, she was humiliated. And in that moment, as the first jabs landed, she decided she wouldn't leave quietly. It was time to show them that appearances define no one, and true power lies not in authority, but in how you choose to treat others. The showroom gleamed with the shine of polished cars, everything staged to impress. But in that glossy space, the most vital shine was missing respect. Taylor stood near the priciest car, studying it with genuine curiosity, not for the vehicle, but for the staff's behavior. Edward approached again, his smile cold, his suit sharp, his ego bloated. He was the type to rush toward anyone with a designer watch or logoed shirt, but to him, Taylor was out of place. "Friend," he said, forcing civility, "I think you're wasting your time here. This car's almost $1 million, you get it? It's for a different kind of customer." Taylor replied only with a steady look. It'd be easy to snap back, but she preferred to listen, letting each word reveal who Edward truly was. "Look, no offense," he went on, "but you'd feel more at home in a more popular spot. There's a lot nearby with some solid used cars, probably fits your budget better." Taylor inhaled deeply. She'd faced this judgment before in job interviews, bank lines, even her own building's elevator. But here, now, it hit differently. Edward, thinking he was being helpful, added one last jab. "Trust me, save your time and ours." Before she could respond, another salesman, Robert, chimed in. "This lady wants to see the most expensive car?" he mocked. "Look at that, Edward. It's Miracle Day." They laughed. Taylor held her ground, but something in her eyes shifted. She knew this wasn't the worst of it, and it wasn't. The laughter rang through the showroom like a public insult. Taylor stood firm, hand in her pocket, eyes fixed on the car she'd asked to see. Now, two more staff joined the fray: Carlos, the sales manager, and Marcella, an admin assistant, grinning cynically as if watching a comedy act. "What's going on here?" Carlos asked. "She wants to take the top model for a spin," Robert said sarcastically. "Says she's interested." Marcella, who'd been silent, piped up, "Oh, come on, let's not embarrass her." Taylor stayed quiet, just watching. Carlos chuckled and crossed his arms. "Ma'am, let's be real. Can you afford this car? We're talking high-end here. Our clients usually book ahead, come with advisors. And pardon me, you don't seem like that type." With every word, Taylor's gaze grew sharper. She didn't just want to spot prejudice. She wanted to see how far they'd go. "Honestly," Edward said, dropping all pretense, "you should find a place that knows how to serve you. We're wasting time here, missing out on real customers." Robert added, "Maybe she's just here for a photo gonna post she almost bought a supercar." More laughs. Taylor stepped back from the car and looked straight at Carlos, the manager. "So this is the service you provide?" Carlos jutted his chin, a mix of defiance and superiority. "We treat people well who come to buy, not to daydream." For a moment, the room fell silent, a heavy, uneasy hush. They expected Taylor to shrink, to slink away embarrassed or offended. But what happened next, no one saw coming. She scanned the room, locked eyes with each face, memorized every word, and said calmly, "I'd like to speak with the store manager now." As the others drifted off, still snickering or shaking their heads, a young salesman who'd watched from afar stepped forward. His name was Lucas, barely 20, new to the company. From a humble background like Taylor's, he knew what it was to be judged by looks. Only 3 months on the job, he was still finding his footing in this cutthroat world. He approached with a genuine smile and respectful tone. "Good afternoon, ma'am. Sorry for the wait. Can I get you some water? It's hot out there." Taylor looked up, and for the first time inside that store, she saw something different, real respect. "Yes, thank you," she said. Lucas brought the water, handed it carefully, and without mentioning the earlier scene, chatted normally, as he would with anyone. "You were looking at the imported model over there, right? I can show you the interior if you'd like. It's one of our best V8 engine smart traction system top-tier finish." Taylor nodded, saying nothing of herself, letting him lead, testing his courtesy and professionalism. Lucas opened the car door with care, explaining every feature clearly and patiently. When he noticed Taylor's technical know-how, he lit up. "You seem to know cars well. Ever worked in the field?" She smiled faintly. "A little. Spent time in shops. Learned hands-on." "That's awesome," he said. "I always say the best customers know what they want. It makes my job worth it." Their talk went on, Lucas's sincerity unwavering, no fakery, no judgment, just a young man doing his job with dignity. Taylor noted every move, every word, and knew this store could be saved if there were more like him. Her decision was set, but one piece remained. After finishing with Lucas, Taylor walked calmly to the reception desk. The air still reeked of arrogance, as if everyone assumed she'd soon leave defeated, but she didn't. She stopped in front of the receptionist and said firmly, "I'd like to speak with the store manager now, please." The woman hesitated. Someone like her asking for the manager was rare, but she made the call. Moments later, the manager appeared. Roger, in a dark suit, exuded a brisk, tired air. Used to dealing with CEOs, politicians, and celebrities, not women in worn clothes demanding attention. "Good afternoon. How can I help you?" he asked, a hint of impatience in his voice. Taylor extended her hand calmly and handed him a card. Roger glanced at it, read it, and froze. Printed on it, Taylor Swift's Chief Executive Officer. For a few seconds, the world seemed to halt. The manager swallowed hard, trying to regain composure. You're Taylor Swift's?" "Yes," she said, "and this store is part of my network. Can we speak privately?" Roger nodded, rattled, and led her to a reserved room. Inside, Taylor cut to the chase. "I want every salesperson from the showroom in here now." Roger tried to mask his unease. "Is there a specific issue, Ms. Swifts? Just do as I asked." Soon, the staff filed in, Edward, Robert, Carlos, Marcella, all puzzled, still chuckling among themselves, thinking maybe another unhappy customer was making a fuss. Then they saw Taylor seated at the table, calm and serene, and in that silence, they sensed something was terribly wrong. The room was packed, the AC chilling the air, but the mood was pure unease. Taylor sat with a steady gaze as those who'd mocked her stood before her. No one spoke. The grins faded, replaced by tense, sweating faces. She picked up her business card, the one she'd given Roger, and set it on the table with care. "I'm Taylor Swift's, CEO of the company you represent or should represent." Silence. The revelation hit like lightning. Edward's eyes widened, mouth agape, speechless. Robert looked down, visibly ashamed. Carlos bit his lip, nerves fraying. Marcella stammered an apology, but Taylor raised a hand for quiet. "Today, I came into the store as a regular customer, simple, anonymous, because I wanted to see with my own eyes if the values we stand for were alive here." She paused, eyeing each of them. What I found was shameful. They stayed mute, some unable to meet her gaze. She pressed on, voice firm. "You didn't just fail a customer, you failed a human being. You humiliated, judged, mocked, knowing nothing about me." Edward stepped forward, voice shaky. "Ms. Swifts, I'm so sorry, ma'am. It was a misunderstanding. We deal with odd folks here sometimes," Taylor cut in. "Odd folks? You know what's odd to me, Edward? Seeing professionals who serve the public treat someone with contempt just because of their clothes or skin color. That's odd and unacceptable." She turned to Lucas, lingering at the back, uneasy at being there. "That's why I called you all in. Amid this mess, there was one exception, a professional who showed dignity when no one else did." Lucas blinked, surprised, glancing around nervously. Taylor stood, approached him, and said, "You, Lucas, treated me like a person. That's worth more than any sale." Then she faced the rest, her look heavy with disappointment. "This company grew through effort, sweat, and respect. I won't let it be tarnished by arrogance or prejudice." Here, no one's above human value. Before anyone could reply, she added, "You'll see the consequences now." Still in the room, the salespeople's faces paled. No one dared justify themselves. This wasn't a scolding. It was the end. Taylor glanced at Roger, silent too. "Edward, Robert, Carlos, and Marcella. You're officially terminated as of now," she said with cold authority. "Your conduct doesn't reflect what we've built. You shamed this team, this brand, and yourselves." Edward, stunned, tried to protest. "But Ms. Swifts, please, it was just a mistake. I'm one of the best sellers here." She looked at him directly. "And yet you failed at the basics respecting people. If you don't respect, you don't stay." Carlos hung his head. Marcella wept, but Taylor stood firm, not cruel, just fair. She turned to Lucas again, still reeling. "Lucas, your actions today showed what matters. You were professional, kind, human. That's what we need. Starting now, you're promoted to supervisor of this location." Lucas, eyes misty, stammered, "I don't know what to say, Ms. Swifts. Thank you, really. Keep being you, Lucas. People like you change companies, change the world." She then addressed the staff, watching from afar. "This isn't just about sales, it's about values, about treating everyone with dignity. I don't care if someone walks in wearing flip-flops or a Rolex. They all deserve the same respect." Her voice softened, but stayed resolute. "Remember that. Treating only the important well isn't professionalism, it's opportunism." Silence fell, but now it was a silence of respect. Taylor gave a slight nod and left the room, leaving behind not just those who'd erred, but a lesson they'd never forget. After the storm, the store returned to quiet, not the same quiet as before, but one of reflection, of change. Taylor left without looking back, steps firm, heart light. There was no joy in firing anyone, just certainty that justice was served and a seed planted. She kept up her plan, visiting other stores in her network, always disguised, always watchful, not for flattery, but for true respect given to anyone, regardless of looks, class, or color. In meetings with her directors, Taylor stressed that selling luxury cars meant nothing if the company didn't treat humans with dignity. She rolled out mandatory training on empathy, anti-bias, and valuing differences. She created forums for employees to share their stories and lessons, pushing for talents like Lucas people with not just skill, but real values. Above all, she kept showing up sometimes as a customer, sometimes a listener, sometimes just a regular woman, because she knew respect must be constant, even when no one's watching. And every time she stepped into one of her dealerships, her mother's words echoed, "Baby, the world might try to shrink you, but don't you ever forget who you are." Taylor never forgot, and she made the world remember too. Have you ever stopped to think about how you treat those around you? Would you recognize a person's worth, even if they didn't seem to have anything to offer? If this story moved you, share it with someone. It's a reminder that respect changes everything.